95%. 95%, that's really high. That's what they found when they asked women, do you want men who are open with their emotions? I found this survey when I was doing research for this video. We found that 95% of women answered yes to the question, do you think women prefer men who are open with their emotions? They asked the same thing of men, like, do you think women prefer that? And 84% of men said yes. So about 1 in 6% of men felt like, no, you shouldn't show your emotions towards women. And like, that makes sense that fewer men would be confident in that because so many men have experienced women rejecting them for their emotions. Now, I think that it's important that we discuss things like this because some men can go completely overboard. They're like, you got to be stoic, you got to be masculine, you can't be showing women any kind of weakness. But actually, in truth, women find men who are without emotion to be boring. Nobody wants to date a rock. But I think that articles like this, surveys like this, when given without context, can be really damaging because I've done a number of Hey Hero consultations from men who continuously get rejected or sabotage relationships because they're showing too many emotions towards women. So just always remember the golden rule. When you are opening like your relationship with a woman at the very start, when you're courting her, when you're flirting, that's not the right time to be showing emotions, okay? You need to be building some mystique, some mystery. That's meant to be flirting. It's meant to be fun. Save the emotional stuff for later on, like maybe 2-3 months into a relationship. That's when you should be more vulnerable, opening up, showing her that you're not just a cool, high-quality guy. You've actually got some depth to you. But also, when you do come time in your relationship to be sharing your emotions, that doesn't mean that you need to dump all of your vulnerabilities and insecurities onto your partner. Women don't want to mother their boyfriends. What they want is to see that you're capable of handling those issues yourself. They want to see some competence. So you can't go into any kind of codependent dynamic. You've got to be responsible for that. And so then how do you make sense of these articles which say, you know, women want 95%, of women want men who can cry? Well, understand from a woman's perspective, what she really wants is a man who's emotionally intelligent because she's got emotions, right? That's what you got to understand. The nuance here is that don't take headlines like this and just be like, right, I'm going to start crying in front of my girlfriend. That's not going to work. But when she's going through something, when she's having an emotional, vulnerable experience, she wants to be able to hear from you like, yeah, that sounds really hard. I understand how you must feel. I've been through similar things myself. She wants to feel like she's got a partner. If you're just a rock, just a masculine guy, it's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Just get over it. Then she's going to be really, really upset. So that, it begs the question then, which a lot of guys get frustrated with, Matt, is that they feel like, okay, how am I meant to find the right balance between these two things? Like I'm meant to be, cool and suave and, masculine, but she also wants me to be emotional, but only sometimes and only on her terms. But I'm actually an individual man and I have all these emotional needs myself. And they can find that really, really frustrating. And of course, on my channel, while I do give the advice, you can share your emotions and be a little bit needy with your partner if you do it in the right way. You don't turn her into a mother. I think there's also a really important discussion to be had about to what degree you should be meeting those needs yourself, or you should be looking outside of the narrow confines of a romantic relationship to meet all of your needs as a man. So let's make this a little bit personal. Matt, you've been with your partner for a couple of years. You've been with your girlfriend. I imagine she meets some of your needs. Does she do a good job of meeting your needs?
She does a great job. Yeah, she nails it.
And what do you think the secret is there?
Well, honestly, the real secret is to not expect her to meet very much of any particular need other than the sexual need because of the relationship.
Just like
I
have
don't
low
put very
standards,
much on her.
low expectations.
Yeah, well, allow me to clarify and save her reputation a little. I don't demand a whole lot from her emotionally from me. I have so many people in my life that can take care of my emotional needs as well as I take care of theirs. She is just one person in my tight-knit circle. I don't expect her to be my therapist and my motivational buddy and my professional strategist. Like Esther Perel has a great bit about this, how we expect so much from our partners. I don't put that on her. She meets my sexual needs because we have a monogamous sexual relationship, but pretty much every other need I have, she's just one in my tribe. And I've designed it like that on purpose.
So what percentage of your needs are met by your girlfriend?
It's hard to quantify that, but I would say 5-10%, it depends on the need because different needs she'll take on different amounts.
That's so low. So low. There'll be a lot like, okay, let's just, let me play devil's advocate. Like, is that even a relationship? Like this is your life partner and you're meeting 95% of your needs outside of your relationship? Are you just roommates? Like, what is this?
Right. Well, it depends. We have to define a lot of terms here and talk about which needs specifically we're talking about. There's a certain kind of depth and intimacy that only she and I go to, and that's the sexual act. And then there's a lot of, kind of quasi parental, Freudian, like babying each other and parenting each other and loving each other in the very sweet coupley way that people do. And she meets, pretty much all of that as well. I have that with essentially no one else. But in terms of the other kinds of needs, like the intellectual stimulation, the fun, the strategizing when shit's hitting the fan in my life, like she is a person I turn to because she's brilliant and she's effective. But I got a dozen of those people because I have a lot of really good friends and family that have my back. And so I don't put that much weight on her in all those domains. I wanted my relationship to be a romantic relationship, not an entire life partnership where she is my other 50% and everyone else just vanishes. That happens so often in relationships where men, and honestly, I think this is more common among men, will just put their whole life on their partner's shoulders and say, you bear it with me now. Fuck my friends. Like they don't say that, but they act that way. And I think that's a tragedy and usually destroys the relationship.
Are you nervous that if you were to put more than 10% of your needs on your partner, that you'd compromise her attraction for you? Is that why you don't do it?
That's probably part of it. That's a good question. I haven't thought of it like that, but also it seems mean to put that much pressure on somebody. And it also just seems unwise because single points of failure are very dangerous. I think people would be better off having more coverage, more coverage for everything that they want. Because if any one individual piece goes and you're losing massive percentages of your coverage for certain needs, then you're going to be, in a lot of pain. So I'd say diversify if you can. And except for, of course, the sexual need, I think it's totally defensible to, some people would even argue, put all of your sexual needs in one basket or spread it among many baskets. I'm happy to put it all in one basket. But all the other needs, I think, the tribe can take it, and I'll take some of theirs as well.
Okay, well, I want to get into, like, I've written up a table here of like all the needs that a man might have, and I want to go through these and basically explore to what degree these have to be met in a romantic relationship or whether they can be met outside that. But before we get to that, I want to ask you if there's equality in your relationship, because it sounds like if you're only asking her to meet 10% of your needs because, you're proactive, you're getting your needs met elsewhere, does that flow both ways? Is she meeting 90% of her needs outside of the relationship? And are you comfortable with that? Doesn't that make you feel like you're not needed, like you're highly replaceable?
I'm certainly not highly replaceable. I don't feel like that at all because there's a certain degree, as you know, there's a certain degree of intellectual and emotional blending that she and I do together that's very rare. So it's not like, I could just replace her like that. No, she's like a top quality, very, very impressive person in my life. And if I didn't have her anymore, it would be a big gap. But to answer your question directly, much of her needs are met elsewhere. She has a lot of friends. She has professional mentors. Her parents are very close to her. She has brothers. She's got masculinity and femininity covered in many areas of her life. And so, I think that she and I are quite comfortable not putting so much on each other. And I think it actually keeps our relationship quite light. Now, I will say, and this is something that you could speak to, if we were to have children, things would change. If we were both managing very complex industries or companies and we needed each other to step up in certain ways, things would change. We have a pretty simple life. We don't have kids. We're both just starting our own businesses. So I think we can afford to not put a lot of pressure on each other. Things might change. What do you think?
Yes, when you are co-parenting with somebody, there's an increased level of dependence, but I don't want to cop out and then blame the fact that we have a daughter together on all of the difference between you and I, because even before we had like a child together, I was looking to my girlfriend to meet a lot more than 10% of my needs. I've never thought about an exact kind of percentage, but I'd probably say maybe 25 to 30%. So maybe like three times as much as you would be natural. And I think that part of that comes from, as time's gone on and the pair bonding process has deepened, she's become so much, by so far, my favorite person to spend time with. It can sometimes be difficult to go outside of my relationship when we're so good at being there for each other. Like, she knows me so well. I know her so well. It can be so efficient. So for things like just, all right, I'm dealing with a personal problem. I'm dealing with a moral quandary. I'm looking for some intellectual stimulation. When I go to her, I know I'm getting high quality all the time. Sometimes when I reach out to my friends, even the ones I love and respect, it can be a bit of a miss sometimes. I'm like, wow, this conversation would have been better with my partner. Now, I think that there's so much truth to what you're saying, and you need to be cautious about putting too many needs on your girlfriend if you're going to maintain some independence, some sexual attraction. all of that. So I don't want to go that far. I don't want to have my girlfriend be my whole world, and I actively have a whole bunch of other people. But it is surprising to me, I suppose. Like, I thought I was doing pretty well by being as not codependent as I was. Your style of relationship, it's taking it to a whole nother level. And I'm thinking there'll probably be people listening to this going, geez, when I was in a relationship, I put like 60, 70, 100% of my needs on my partner. Was that where I went wrong? Do I basically need to need them for nothing? And is that how I'm going to be able to stay with a woman? But even if I do that, am I even going to enjoy the relationship? You know, like, I think that potentially some people will take the model of your relationship and feel like it's empowering. Others will find it frightening. Like, I can't not need my partner as much as Matt seems to not need his girlfriend. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak to that.
It's a really good point, and there's definitely the instinct to go in both directions. Keep adding more to your partner or keep taking away to the point where you need essentially nothing from them. And it's going to depend on the personality. It's going to depend on your life experience. If I can be a bit self-disclosing, my attachment style it was not terribly secure as a child, and I grew up needing a lot from my mother that I didn't get, and translating that to future relationships, right? And so I learned through trial and error, a lot of trial and error, that I can't afford to put that much on a single woman, because if she goes, I'm a mess. And so I learned, okay, have really solid friends with high emotional intelligence, meet people who are dedicated to caring for those around them, and then just surround myself with those people and then become that person as well for them. And it seems like my injury has sort of translated into a form of stability that maybe a lot of other people didn't need as bad. But I do think that it's not just needing someone else, but it's the desire to be needed. And people feel like they want to be someone's everything. And I've heard people essentially say that they want to be the main thing in someone's life because it makes them feel so special. I don't want that. I want my partner to have lots of friends, to have lots of interesting things to do that I don't need to be a part of. Not because I don't want to be a part of it, but because I've been in a relationship where I am someone's everything. Oh, shit. And guess what happened to the relationship? The same thing that just happened to my iPad. It fell down on its face. Yeah. So it's really, really unwise to want to be that important to somebody, because every mistake you make is a fucking nightmare to them. And so I will never do that again. And I think I've landed at a pretty comfortable place for myself. And she seems to feel the same way, given how well we function.
Yet I would feel, I think, insecure if I was not needed to that degree. Now, I'm in a relationship where we're encouraging self-autonomy as much as possible as well. Like, you want to be as competent as you possibly can, but I feel like there are certain just inalienable needs that you need from like another person in a romantic relationship. And I want to feel that in my relationship because it makes me feel solid. It makes me feel safe. Like, I felt like if she didn't need anything from me at all, then I could potentially just be cast aside completely. So there's a balance. Too much neediness is a problem. Not enough needs is a problem. And I think this is probably a good time now to actually bring up this table here, because what I've tried to create is the 10 needs that I think most men have in relationships. But I don't think all of these necessarily have to be met by a girlfriend. And so let's try and find that sweet spot. You and I right now, what we'll do is we'll go through all of these and we'll discuss, is this a need that is exclusive to your girlfriend, that you can only really do with her because it's that unique and special? Or is this something you can get met by friends, by a therapist, by family, by a mentor, an older male mentor, by platonic female friends, whatever it might be? So let's start with the first one. Let's go with physical affection.
This is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for coming up with this. This is great.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, physical affection. Do you think that that is a need that can be met outside of a relationship, or is that, no, that's a relationship need?
Yeah, if it's not sexual, absolutely. I'm a hugger. You know, I love hugging my friends. I love hugging my family. You know, there's human touch is a real thing. You know, like my dad taught me from a very young age, like, here's how masculine men hug other people, their friends, their family, everybody. And I've always, you know, that's benefited me a whole lot in making friends quickly and you know, using touch as a form of communication. So if it's not sexual, I think you can get tons of physical affection outside of a relationship.
So that's a something unique to you. Now, from my own unique experience, I don't like to be touched, which sucks
Yeah.
because I live in a community that's very like touchy, feely. If I don't know you very well as a stranger, I don't really like. I like hugging my friends, I suppose.
There
But
you go.
generally,
That's
I
what I
have
mean.
found I'm usually on the recipient of more physical affection from people than I necessarily want. Yet I'm totally
Mhm.
happy touching my partner and being touched by her. Like, it's not like I hate all kind of touch. To me, it's very specific to
Yeah.
that one. And I love the physical like affection that I receive from my daughter as well. But for me, I think there's a unique physical expression that really can only get met from the intimacy of a romantic relationship. So we're kind of half and half in that one. So what I'll do
Yeah.
is I'm going to color green, but I'll do with the girlfriend ones, but I won't do a very big one. I'll do much bigger ones for the pure girlfriend ones, and then we'll give it
Sure.
like a little bit of the red to say that this one can also be met a little bit from other people. What about emotional
Interesting
support?
system. That one I feel exactly the same about physical support is that you can get emotional support. I mean, I would almost say that you would opt to expect as not as little as possible, but even less emotional support from your partner than you might through like someone who's kind of dedicated for that role, a coach, a therapist, someone who you would actually go to professionally to help you process and support things emotionally. Because when someone can really drill in and give you that full attention, they kind of deserve to be paid if they're giving you hours and hours of just pure time for your emotional support. So I would say at the very minimum, exactly the same amount for physical affection. Plenty of emotional support from others.
Would you be okay if I put an equal amount girlfriend and an equal amount of other people? Because I think for all medium level stuff, it's fine to expect it from your partner. But you have to understand when it comes to the really deep stuff, the deepest insecurities, any traumas you're working through, your partner is the wrong person to work through that with you because it's going to be too confronting. It's too frightening for them because they have so much invested in you to really be impartial in that instance. You need to be speaking to someone who doesn't have a horse in the race, essentially, which is why it's therapy. So I think that from a day-to-day point of view, definitely your partner, but not from an everything point of view. Would you be okay with 50-50 or do you feel it needs to be adjusted?
I would say it would even be adjusted, but it is, you do wield the paintbrush.
What's your adjusted?
70-30.
To the girlfriend or to others?
As in she would handle 30 of it.
Right. Yep. Okay. No, we'll do it like that. I think because I can understand. I don't really know the weighting, but I think that the point that I made is important.
Yeah.
So
yeah, these numbers are feel very arbitrary, but I think we can more or less agree on that. I will say, just to add to your point, even if your partner wants to be that person for you, don't do it. Even if they're like begging, like, let me be the person who will hold this space for you. It's so risky. It's not like you should never give them anything, of course, but it's people take on way more than they know how to handle. If you have some real trauma, spare them the terror of seeing someone in desperate need in front of them and not knowing what to do. It's a very scary feeling. Just go to a professional. You'll both thank yourself.
Yep. I agree with that. All right, let's go feeling desirable. Now, for me, this is a 99%. You get from your
I'd say
girlfriend.
99. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. While I make the
You mean sexually desirable, right? That's explicitly what you mean.
I mean romantically desirable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. 99%, I would say.
So let's do a nice big one here. This is so scientific.
So what is that
by
one?
the end, whatever we've got is more color on the page. I'm not even going to do a dot of red for that one. What about for fun?
But hold on, go back. What is the 1% for feeling desirable outside of your relationship? How does that make sense? How would you explain that?
I just think that as much as I love that my partner finds me desirable, if she was the only person on earth that saw any value in me, and I was like, yeah, without this one person, I'd be lost and alone, I think that's not good. It's not like I want to lean into it or I'm exploring kind of options, but I feel I feel confident that if I wasn't with my partner, I would have been with somebody else. You know what I mean? And I still get feedback to this day that generally tells me that I'm a person of value. People like spending time with me, and that, even in a romantic context, I wouldn't have a problem with that. And I just feel like that's important.
Yeah.
It's important that it's there, but I think that it's also important that it doesn't grow beyond 1% because then that starts to cause problems.
Yeah, I think it's an instinct, and men who are high value will naturally detect women who talk to them and feel a sense of desire. There's a flirtation, there's a certain kind of eye contact. You can kind of see it behind the scenes just a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with letting that kind of validate that, oh, I'm onto the right track here because people seem to like what I'm selling. But like you said, don't lean into it, because if you're using that as a form of self-esteem, then you're going to actually start unconsciously what's it called, calling upon it in these people, and that can do a lot of damage to your relationship.
Okay, 100%. How much fun in your life comes from your relationship with your girlfriend?
15-20%. We have a lot of fun, but I have a whole men's group for that too. You know, we do all kinds of crazy shit.
Yep. No, I would. So for me, it's higher. I'd say the majority of my fun comes from my relationship with my partner. But I think here's the point, is that it doesn't need to, right? Like it just so happens that we have a lot of like similar taste in like music, TV shows, activities. And now that we have a child together, we spend so much time together. But back when we were single, I certainly spent a lot more time with my friends. And so I don't think you should be relying too much on your girlfriend. So to me, I put it, to be honest, I'd probably make it important that not so much with your partner. I'd put the majority of it with like friends and other people. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think in your case, and this is such an interesting contrast between us, because your relationship is 4 times longer, maybe more than ours, than mine and my partner's, and you have a child, so your lifestyle is just different. And yet even still, you feel like there's a solid amount of fun that should be had outside of your primary relationship. So we can totally agree.
Well, I think like I'm a little bit unique in that instance, in that I'm with a partner who finds a lot of the things I find interesting and fun. Yeah. That's not the case in really dichotomous relationships where the man is a man's man, the woman's a woman's woman. What she finds fun and interesting, I hope these stereotypes aren't offensive or whatever, but if he wants to fix car engines and she wants to stay inside sewing and knitting, and both of them find them fun, they're not a shared experience. But that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with a relationship. You don't need to be best buddies with your girlfriend or boyfriend. That's not necessarily the role. And I think when it comes to fun, it's more important that you're having fun kind of outside that relationship. In fact, I'm convincing myself even more of that. I'm making this red one even bigger because I feel stronger about that one. But let's move on to intellectual stimulation, because I feel quite strongly about this one, that it really shouldn't be primarily your partner. You shouldn't be picking her just for the intellectual stimulation. That's definitely a need you can be getting from podcasts, books, friends, you know.
Yeah, I agree. And this is an important aspect of my personality, is I love to debate. As people can probably tell from this podcast, I love to get into details and argue multiple sides of things. She does not like doing that. She loves to explore new ideas. She's very creative and she's very interested in a lot of things. She's definitely sharp as hell. But as soon as the debate comes on, she checks out almost instantly. It's just not her vibe. And so all of that I outsource elsewhere, and most of my intellectual energy goes along with the debate. So I'd say 90% is outside of my relationship.
So my partner is somewhat similar to yours, but not entirely. She can get into it as long as it's related to kind of people and ideas. Then she can get a bit into it, but it has to be related more on an individual level. But the other day I was doing an interview on somebody else's YouTube channel, and for whatever reason, this person wanted to ask me about my views on, you know, internal US politics or conspiracy theories or something like that. And like she took a clip from it, and we'd spent the first half of the discussion talking about dating and relationships, you know, my bread and butter. But then she didn't find that the most interesting part of the interview, I guess. She talked about she took this part where I was talking about the US political system and whether you'll have a revolution or armed conflict, and then China and China's relationship to Australia, like all this geopolitical stuff. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. You know, I saw it, and she chose that part of the interview to highlight. And I told my girlfriend, she's like, oh, put it up on the TV. So we watched it. And I was talking about all this stuff that I never talked to my girlfriend about. She couldn't really care less about international treaties and how it's affecting the world's balance of power and what's going to happen with the economy. It's boring to her. But it's interesting to me. I spent quite a lot of time studying it. And so she had that experience of like, wow, you know a lot about this, or like you have very strong opinions about that particular one. And that was kind of surprising to her, but it speaks, I suppose, to, I know if I want intellectual stimulation about a certain number of topics, there's no point going to my girlfriend. You know, there's some things that we share and other things that we don't share. Sometimes when my male friends will come around and we might spend like 3-4 hours like really getting into a topic, she'll happily sit there and listen. She'll find it interesting, but she won't really contribute. She's like, yeah, like I've never thought about it. Like I'm learning on the go. And I just come to know that about my relationship. So I'm going to put like 90% for this one as outside the relationship. I'll put
My partner, she won't even hang out if I start arguing with my friends. She'll be like, "You guys are gonna have fun. I'm gonna do something else."
Does
Like,
it
she'll
have
just
to
leave
be
the
an
room, and I'm like,
argument?
apparently.
All right, what about company? I feel like you're going to disagree with me for this one because I put this one overwhelmingly like, yes, that's one of the main things your
Yeah.
partner's there for.
I mean, this is so much relevant to extroversion, right? So for those of you familiar with the Big Five test, my extroversion score is 99 out of 99, the highest possible score. So company for me is widely distributed. I got all kinds of people. And so she is, like 5-10%.
What about for her? Like, you're more extroverted than her. Like,
Far more, yeah.
yes, you make up a bigger percentage of her social interactions than she does of yours,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm probably a similar level of introversion and extroversion to my partner. I'm probably a little bit more extroverted, but not by a huge degree. But to me, like, even if I go out and like I have lunch or I go for a walk or I go out and play board games, that's only like 2-3 hours out of a day. The majority of my day is spent with my partner. And I kind of feel like that's what romantic relationships are for, is it's not meant to be interesting and stimulating and an activity all the time. It's for like, hey, let's do the dishes together. Let's sit and read a book near each other. Let's watch a movie together. Like, it's more just general life to life stuff. And I just feel more at peace when I have another person around me. I don't want to be in my own company all that time. And she's the no pressure person to hang out with. It's always fun. I love spending time with her. So to me, I put like 80% towards my girlfriend. With reference to you, I know you're going to sort of downplay that one, but can I still put the majority girlfriend?
You absolutely can, because I'm an outlier when it comes to extroversion.
Okay, but I think that it is important that we make that clear, that you shouldn't be relying entirely on your girlfriend. How are we doing so far?
Certainly not.
It seems like there's a little bit more green maybe on this, but
yeah, it's looking pretty damn even.
well, what's important?
It's very scientific metric.
So scientific. What's important though is that we have established so far that there's nothing that's necessarily exclusively your girlfriend. You know?
I don't think, other than sexuality, yeah.
Oh, and feeling desirable. I didn't really put anything there, unless you want to feel desirable to your mates. But
I mean, hey, what are true friends for?
Right, chance to demonstrate masculinity. I think this is a need that men have. And so you can think of this from like the friend's point of view, like, right, I'm part of a team, we're building something together, I'm part of doing sports. But I think that there's a more nuanced expression of masculinity, which is masculine onto the feminine, because you really can feel what makes you unique as a masculine individual when you are interacting with a woman who's feminine, because she has a unique way of appreciating that and receiving that that's quite unique. So to me, even though you can do it, I would put the majority to the girlfriend. What about you?
You know, I actually disagree quite a bit. And the reason why is because I think the primary attraction to masculine men is that she knows that he is masculine out in the world outside of her. Like, he's also a leader for other people. He's also a solid pillar of wisdom and courageousness for other people. And that's what draws it. She only sees it from you when you're with her, but then for everyone else, you're kind of androgynous or feminine.
Yeah.
I think she's going to see it as kind of a performance. And so I would actually put chance to demonstrate masculinity as one of the more widely distributed needs, because it needs to be a characterological trait that is generalizable for you.
Interesting. I actually found that quite convincing. So I'm going to put the majority of that one there for that. No,
changing your mind is one of my greatest passions.
I do think that there's, at least especially like in a sexual dichotomous sense, there's a unique role for women. But in hearing what you sort of said there, I'm like, yeah, that actually makes sense. If you are basically androgynous in all aspects, then she's not going to get to see that. Whereas I know from my own experience, when my partner has seen me amongst other men being masculine, it's been huge for her. And so we can't discount that.
I would say I'm almost more masculine outside of my relationship, because she pulls out some of my femininity, because that's part of how we bond, you know, with my male friends, especially if I'm engaged in some crazy activity. That's when I'm the most, you know, kind of hardcore masculine male. And she'll see that from a distance sometimes, because she'll be at the events and see me kind of go off the rails just a little bit. And it's really fun for her, but it's like, it's definitely a slightly different side of me.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. All right, reproduction. I don't think we need to discuss that. That's
no, yeah.
all women.
Unless you're marrying multiple wives, and I guess that would all be categorized as still your romantic relationships. But yeah, we'll give it 100.
All right. So for social acceptance, then I think that that's very little to do with your girlfriend. I think the acceptance that I'm talking about there is that communal acceptance. I've got a value outside of just what I provide in my relationship. So for this one, I don't even really think we need to have the girlfriend ones. With regards to Like being desirable, yes, you need your girlfriend, but social acceptance is a different one. So which just brings
Yeah,
us,
it's almost definitionally outside of her.
yeah, that I would agree. And so this last one, and I hope people like my list of the 10 needs I think men have. But the last one, this was your contribution actually. I came up with the first 9, and then you recommended this one, the opportunity to pass on wisdom. Can you explain what you meant by that, Matt?
Yeah, especially as men age, because a lot of my male friends are actually quite a bit older than me, and they cannot get enough of this opportunity to like help young men navigate their complexity of their lives. Alexander, your whole channel is essentially this, is it's an homage to your younger self saying, let me help you through this. So it's one of the most classic desires of masculine men, is to instruct and to mentor and to bestow the pearls that we've collected along the way to our deserving younger brothers and sons. So I think this is a classically masculine desire to be a teacher.
I would agree. I think that mostly, if not all, this is going to be outside the relationship, this one, but it's absolutely an essential human need, is to kind of be that mentor. I feel like everyone should be a student and a teacher at the same time. You got to find someone above you, you got to find someone below you, and you also need to find fellow traveling companions. So let's get the red in.
Now, I would put a little green there, because I think in the nature of hypergamy, women tend to like men a little bit older than them, and especially men who have a little bit of worldly experience. It's part of the masculine desire to be parented. Sorry, the feminine desire to be parented by the masculine a little bit. And I think that it's asymmetrical. So for women, I think they're turned on by a man who can essentially lead them through difficulty a little bit more overtly than a man would be by a woman who can mother him through difficulty. So
I agree with that. Yeah, I just think that there is a slight danger, I suppose, when you're considering, what am I trying to say? When you're considering, like, if you are only meeting that need of passing on wisdom in your relationship, you do run the danger of potentially like belittling that person unconsciously. So it's not good. Like if the only person who respects you and looks up to you is your girlfriend, then it's likely to turn toxic. So it's more of an ultimate expression of who you are, even outside the relationship, is you're the kind of person that can kind of teach.
And there's another layer to that too, which is that it is totally okay if your partner, who is a woman, if you're a man listening to this, if she can teach you some things. That's actually a great role for her, because women to some degree need to channel their masculinity. So to be a student from her is also appropriate, just not so much to the point where she starts to feel superior to you and therefore you no longer satisfy the hypergamous desire.
Yes, exactly right. Well, that's it then. As I look at this, I actually see the majority of red. But here's the point that I want to make, is that it doesn't matter whether there's 51% red and 49% green, whether more needs can be met. That the main danger that I wanted to warn against here is men who think that it's 100% green. As long as we've made the point by doing this exercise that there is a huge amount that you can meet for your own needs yourself or in relationships with friends, family, therapists, whatever it might be, then you should basically try and maximize that out as far as you can, because there is truth. I don't know if Matt's 10% is exactly how far you should go, but the less you need her, the safer you kind of are in that relationship. It's like an insurance, you know? If that one particular pillar of your life falls down, you're going to be okay. And when you know that you're not so dependent on one person, guess what? You're more confident, you're more relaxed, and she's happier with you in the relationship, and so she's more likely to stay. So the relationship actually functions better when there's less pressure on it. And so that idea that we spoke about of we need to find that Disney soulmate myth, you know, this one person is going to meet all my needs forever and ever and ever. You got to forcibly get that out of your head, right? And just rip it out and actually go, all right, I think that my needs are going to be met by a committee. Okay, I'm going to have my sporting friends for my masculinity. I'm going to have my therapist for my intense emotional needs. I'm going to have my girlfriend to make me feel sexually desirable, but I'm going to go have fun with her and then with my buddies in the evening. Like, you've got to be a dynamic person, which then more speaks to one of the general themes that we keep touching on this channel, which is that your dating life cannot be considered in isolation, right? It's part of a more holistic perspective of who you are and where you're at socially, you know?
Yeah, there's I do want to throw a bone to the guys who swing to the other end of the spectrum here, because, as you said, a lot of men put so much on their partners to be all green, cover everything, and then some guys learn that's bad, so they swing all the way to the other side and go all red and said, give her no responsibility for your happiness whatsoever. And while codependence is the lowest level, and then independence is a step higher than that, in my opinion, is interdependence, where there's some leaning on each other. That's how the mesh becomes really strong, so long as it's not fully dependent. I think that's the healthiest kind of a relationship style. And so I respect you for swinging the other way, but like, come back to that middle way. You'll be happier.
There is such an incredible feeling of pleasure that comes from leaning on somebody and then having it received correctly. It's for men who have been really badly burned or traumatized, or have just experienced the anti-male sexism exists there that tells them nobody's going to care about my needs. God, I sympathize, and I applaud whatever efforts you're taking to try and meet those needs individually. It's massive. But I tell you, it can't possibly compare, that feeling of pride of doing it on your own. That doesn't compare to the feeling of pleasure that comes when you are vulnerable to somebody, a trusted girlfriend who you've been with for a number of years, a therapist, a good friend, like, man, I'm really struggling with this and I feel really insecure about this. And then someone doesn't laugh at you, somebody doesn't belittle you, someone doesn't abandon you. They're there for you in an emotionally nurturing kind of way. You were vulnerable and it was received in the perfect way. That feeling of pleasure will make you feel even safer than just being ultimate independent man. But it's scary because as a man, you're not existing in a society that's desperate to give you that. And so you need to tread really, really carefully. And on the whole, I tend to err men away from being overly emotional, because I know how much damage it can do if you do it badly. And then you just go, right, I'm never doing that again. It's like, God, if you can, just try and hold it together until you know that you found the right community of people. You're only with high quality people. You found the courage and the money to find a therapist, and it's a good one. Otherwise, if you invest your good energy and your vulnerability in the wrong person, it can give you trust issues that can take decades to break out of. Maybe you might never. And that is the ultimate tragedy. So you got to try and preserve that sense of trust.
It's so worth every second of effort. So it's a beautiful way to end this, is just your injunction to take this process very, very sincerely. Try to navigate this in a way that only brings you up, as opposed to becoming ideological and swinging either direction. Learn to navigate it with a wisdom and a precision, and heed the wisdom of everyone who you think has anything good to say on this topic. Just trust the process. You will get there.
It's a wonderful place to leave it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Yes, you made it to the end of the video. That's awesome. I don't think many people actually watch videos all the way to the end, which means you're a true fan and you're exactly the person that I want to speak to. I didn't want to put a message at the start of the video and just chat to anybody. I wanted to talk to those people who really genuinely like my content enough to watch a video to the end. So I have something that I want to tell you, which is that I kind of hate YouTube, which sounds weird because I actually love YouTube. There's part of me that loves YouTube because it gave me a career talking about something I'm so passionate about, evolution, women, female psychology, sexuality, dating, relationships, all that stuff. I'm so interested in that. And I find it so fulfilling to be helping people. And so I love YouTube because it's helped me, gain an audience, and I'm able to help so many people. But there's this darker side to it that I really, I hate. Like that word is accurate. I know it's a strong one, but the pressures of like, how am I going to create this title so that it's, emotionally grabbing enough? And what am I going to put in the thumbnail so it's really clickbaity? And then how am I going to, spike emotions in every 30 seconds so that people don't get bored and click away? Like, this platform is just so geared towards, you got to make things really flashy and intense in order to keep people interested. And that's just not me. It gives me anxiety. And that's the part of my work that I've just always hated. I've really disliked that. But unfortunately, it just is a part of this platform. And it's inevitable that as you try and fit your content within the narrow confines of the YouTube algorithm, you're going to lose a lot of the nuance that I actually think makes the content interesting in the first place. If you want to keep people's attention, then you have to be making them emotional. You have to make them scared or angry or whatever. You don't keep people's attention by being calm, rational, sincere, nuanced. Better strategy is to find like the most reptilian part of your audience's brain and then just push on it, just find their emotional triggers, whatever tribalism they're most biased towards to, and just keep validating any pre-existing bias that they have. You've probably seen so many men's dating advice channels just quickly discerned into outright sexism and misogyny, just like women bashing, women hating, because frankly, that's what the algorithm is going to reward. But that's not me. That's not the content that I ever wanted to produce. I love women. I love men. I love people. I want to use this channel and the content that I create to help men and women better understand each other so that we can all have happier, healthier relationships. That's my goal. But as time's gone on, I've just become more and more convinced that YouTube is not the platform to do this on. That's why I put so much more of my focus on Patreon, because that's where, true fans of mine come to support me, where I can release longer videos like this one that you've just watched. It is so much more enjoyable when filming these videos to be able to fully explore a topic at my own pace. Now, I'm always going to be releasing videos on YouTube. I've got to have some public presence. And so I'm going to have to play the game a little bit, which is why I usually take my videos from Patreon and then I edit them down, make them more emotionally punchy. But occasionally I want to release videos in their full length, unedited, just like the one that you've seen, so that you can have an opportunity to actually experience what the video was meant to look like, how it gets released on Patreon. So if you enjoyed this video, then I've got good news for you, because my Patreon has a bunch of videos just like this, and it's crazy affordable. It's just $5. I've never increased the price, even as the years have gone on, and I've added more and more to my back catalog. So if you really like my content and you've got $5 spare, and this is something you take seriously, like your dating, your relationship, life, that's something you really want to master, then I really encourage you to come and check me out on Patreon, because you're going to notice such an increase in quality. Really good, solid information, enjoyable videos to listen to, free from the pressures of all the clickbait nonsense. You'll be helping yourself. I guarantee you'll get a lot of benefit from my content, but you'll also be helping me too, because I'm trying to build something away from the YouTube platform. I'm trying to create something more stable for myself, and I would really appreciate your help in doing that. So give it a try. Click on the link in the description box below, head over to my Patreon, sign up, and then see what I've got to offer. I'm sure you're going to love it. Patreon is where the real content is being made, and we have an amazing community over there. I'd love for you to be a part of it.